and federal lobbyists. We need to have our lobbyists be there to be on board when there's any sort of legislation or acts of Congress that impact our natural resources or even our environment here. It's equally as important for us to stay ahead of the game and to be on top of any sorts of laws or legislation that's coming down from the federal government. When we go about talking with the federal government, we're at or on a government-to-government relationship. We are not a state, we're not a county, we're a federal government, and it's going to be very important that we uphold and review some of the treaty rights and some of the relationships that the federal government has agreed upon. These are agreements that go well back into the 1800s. People tend to forget that we did give up our land, but it was an agreement between us and the federal government to uphold some of the statutes regarding Indian health services, regarding the use of our tribal lands here and our natural resources. We have the ability to create our own laws and to incorporate those laws within our own community. It's going to be important for us to uphold and maintain our own tribal sovereignty towards self-governance. Thank you.
So, thank you. Good question. What do I see as our biggest obstacles? I think the election last night was scary. The Republicans now have control of the House, which they had before the election. They have control of the Senate, and they have a Republican president. Biggest threat to our sovereignty, I think, is the Supreme Court. The president is going to be able to appoint or nominate a justice, which will sway the makeup of the Supreme Court to 5-4, and potentially two more justices he may have the opportunity to appoint. If that's the case, they'll have a pretty big majority in the Supreme Court. And if you look at in the last years, the decisions that came out of the Supreme Court, they were not in favor of the tribes. There really hasn't been any that have been in favor of the tribes. I think you look at the Patchett decision in Michigan with the Potawatomi tribe and their casino over there. That decision is tough. You look at the raid on our hemp fields that we had here on the Menominee Indian Reservation. DEA, FBI, U.S. Attorney, that was a big blow to our sovereignty. You look at the back 40 mine, the delegation of some of the responsibilities there's sovereignty issues there. So the Supreme Court, the President, the House, the Senate, all of those things have a big impact on our sovereignty. And I think that's something that everybody in this room should be cognizant of going forward.
I think everyone here hit on some of the biggest issues. The biggest issue is ourselves, being proactive to guarding our sovereignty. We're not fully sovereign. We're a quasi-sovereign nation. Whatever the United States grants us, that's what we get, or whatever we fight for. Legislator Corrin here was correct in some of the analysis of what is happening with the Supreme Court decisions. And it's unfortunate that the deck is kind of stacked against us. But that shouldn't deter us from promoting that sovereignty that we have and protecting it and trying to develop it. We send our kids to college. hopefully that they learn, as elders used to say way back, send them to college so they can learn the white man ways, then bring them back here so they can work in this world, two worlds, and it's tough. So, sovereignty, we need to be ever vigilant of what is happening and be careful of how we assert ourselves, but at the same time, we need to be proactive. We need to fight for every little sovereign issue we have. The Major Crimes Act, that's devastating. That was one of the biggest blows to tribal nations. Took away our ability to govern ourselves. So, being more proactive, that's the key, that's our biggest issue. We need to be proactive, but we have to be very careful what fights we pick. Thank you.
What are you going to do to bring awareness to people outside of the res to gain support on the Back 40 mine issue?
Back 49 issue, of course, awareness. How do we get the word out? What is happening? And I see some good posts, news posts. We need to get our people out there. Nakwa, he's a big key to this because of his status as preservation officer. But you need that ground support. You need those people going out there and keeping the issue alive in the newspapers, on television, trying to get our tribal government to keep pushing that media, news media, because that's the key to a lot of things. What I see for support, you have to go to the surrounding areas of where that's happening and try and gain that local support there, groundswell. If you look at the other protest in South Dakota or North Dakota, South Dakota, you see they have a groundswell of support. How did they do it? Let's take a lesson from how they did it, and let's use some of those to get things going here to show support. Crandon Mine was pretty easy to get support from because it really directly impacted us. But this one, it's hard to link that direct impact. But we need to find a way to link that direct impact to our nation, to our sovereignty, to our culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Can you repeat the question again? Let me make sure I heard it right.
What are you going to do to bring awareness to people outside of the res to gain support on the Back 40 mine issue?
I think, we held our press conferences and our rallies up there and brought a lot of awareness to the issue. I was fortunate enough to be able to take the 8th grade class from Menominee Tribal School up there. And I think I've seen some of you kids up there, some of you adults up there. I think we need to educate our kids, our children, and let them tell the story. Sometimes their voices are bigger than ours. We need to educate our lobbyists. We need to look back at that Crandon mine and what worked there. That has a huge story to tell there. I think we can learn from that. You got to reach out to our environmentalists, anybody that sees the resources as we do, other tribes, maybe Michigan tribes can help us in that fight. Local support, like Gene had said, I think it's good to be proactive and start doing everything that we can. You know, try to tell our story to whoever we can, whenever we can, wherever we can. I think it's going to take that kind of effort if we're going to be helpful or successful in stopping this thing. So that's what I can think of right now. So, thank you.
So when we're thinking about the back 40 issue and what we're going to do to bring about awareness, I was thinking about the medicine wheel. We have the red, black, the white, and the yellow. We need to bring together all members of our community, of our 4 or 5 surrounding counties, and even statewide to talk about what the impact will be across the state. And it can even, the impact can go from state to state. If they get approval to complete the mine, if anything goes wrong, they're getting permission to do the mining within 40 miles of our watershed. That's our watershed, the Menominee people, but how close is it to other folks in the area? How close is it to their main water supply? My initiative would be to get a statewide initiative going so that we can educate our neighbors and our friends and family that live throughout the state. So it's not just our issue, it's not just our tribal issue, but it's a people issue. It's a human nature issue of people across the state and as well as in neighboring states.
Well, the mining, I went up to Marinette one evening with the group, small group, 1 busload. I kind of wondered where everybody was because it's so important. So I felt that maybe within our tribe here we need to really get a movement with our people, because anything that changes, it has to become with a movement. Off the reservation, we need to get a hold of all the counties. We went up there and they gave everybody, started out, you're supposed to have 5 minutes to speak. Well, most of the non-tribal members or whatever, they had their 5 minutes. But as they were coming down to the tribal people, we're dropped down to 3 minutes. Then at one point, we're down to 2 minutes. The companies, they don't care what our ancestors, about our water. They're only concerned about what money they're going to get out of there. They're finding that there's more minerals under there, and that's what they want. They don't care about what we think. So I think we need to lobby in Michigan and Wisconsin, not just local, but the whole state, because it affects both sides. That's our water supply. Up in Lac de Flambeau, they're mining leaks. It's been proven, they see it. That information needs to be put out to the people, all of the people. It's dangerous. And I just don't understand how money can override natural resources, the bloodline of Mother Earth. It just amazes me, but we need to get out there and really do more. As one person, I commit myself to it. But we need to have everybody, it's got to be a movement. Like anything that changes things in life, it's a movement. There we go, thank you.
I think we really need to take a proactive approach, not just when these issues arise. The back 40 mine, it's now, but what is it tomorrow? I think this needs to be taught to our kids at a very young age, to start looking at these issues that can affect our people, our environment. I'm more of a frontline person. I walked up to Michigan, I don't even remember the Stevenson, Michigan, with the water walk that went up there. I was also there for the public forum, which everybody's time was cut and you didn't get to speak, and a lot of people didn't even get to speak. I was out in Standing Rock in North Dakota on the front lines, helping protect the water out there for the pipeline that they're trying to push through. So I think everyone's kind of hitting it right on the head. It's community awareness is the big thing, and being proactive in our approach to stop these things. We should be planning now. We should have an effort through the tribe that continuously tells everybody that we're against these projects that could have a detrimental impact on our futures or our ancestors who are in that area in Stevenson, Michigan, where they're proposing the Back 40 mine. Also, we need to look at taking care of our resources. We should be doing things so we don't have to count on these materials that are coming out of the mine so much. We should be conserving energy, looking at alternative sources of power for our reservations. We're not utilizing all of these things. We should be recycling more. Start an initiative teaching the kids about recycling and how important it is so we don't have all these projects popping up. So it's just a huge proactive approach that we need to start within our tribe to push this forward. Thank you.
And so I guess I would speak to the grassroots movement that is currently ongoing and wish them all the best success and support them in whatever way I can. In regards to the environment, I think that fight is pretty well put together. There's environmentalists out there, there's activist groups. What I think we need to do is we need to get our minds around our historic and our cultural sites up there and start mapping some of those things out and start putting that fight on the table. I'm not exactly sure where that's at, as I'm not a member of what's going on, but that's what I would advocate for, is that we protect our ancestral territory there. I know we must have graves up there. I know we've got cultural sites. It's where the Menominee bear come out of the water. That was the first Menominee man. That's the story, our origin story. So those are the things that we need to protect, and you know, this is a tough question to kind of be on the end of, but yeah, we need to protect our future for our Menominee people. And so what we do now that affects them, you know, and they'll hold us accountable. And so, you know, we need to get out there and we need to do what we can to keep a good environment for them. And, you know, I like a lot of what was said here, especially in regards to clean energy. Thank you.
Excuse me. I think the Back 40 mine issue is very significant, and we need more lobbying, we need more education, especially with our young people. I think it should be mandatory in our schools that our children learn about these issues, learn about our Menominee history, everything that our people went through up until the present, and keep those young people, because they are our future, keep those young people involved in the process and let them have their voice and have that connection. And while we are talking about the Back 40 mine issue, I think we should visit the issues that are going on the reservation, our water rights on the reservation. You know, why doesn't the tribe have an assessment report in order to achieve water quality standards? I mean, if we had something like that, you know, maybe that could help achieve
to hold people that are trying to destroy our natural resources accountable. If we have something like that, you know, it would be easier, not easier, but it would help us in our fight. And I think that when we talk about Back 40 Mine, you know, Standing Rock, I think that we should really visit the issues that are happening in our community on our reservation.
Joanne and candidates for being here, being on the hot seat. We're going to do one more question and then take a five-minute break. So if you haven't filled out your questions, if you heard it yet, if you could go to the blue basket back there. Tyler's holding it up. Write a question down and submit it. So I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm going to start with Mary in the middle. My question to you is, what are you going to do to solve the housing issue on the res?
In the middle, you say? Oh, good thing.
Yep.
Okay, well, I don't really actually know how to answer that question because of the fact that the tribe already has a housing department that should be taking care of all issues and addressing all the things that are happening. As one person, I don't know what I could do to say that what I'm doing for the housing, because we are supposed to work as a body. And I just felt that our housing department was taking care of that. I had full confidence that that was being addressed. So that's my answer.
Okay,
Right, left?
yeah, I'll ask Shannon that same question.
So to me, there's a few different housing issues, and a couple of them that are near and dear to my heart is our homeless youth and runaway housing issue. Here in our own backyard, we have homeless youth that range between the ages of, anywhere from 24 years on down, that are living on couches in a family member's home, or they're staying overnight at a friend's house, and they're not deemed as being homeless because there's no mechanism for support for them. Our youth are homeless. We need to be able to bring those sorts of laws. There is a law in the state of Wisconsin called the McKinney-Vento Act that protects our youth that are homeless. And oftentimes with homelessness in youth, they're not deemed homeless because they're staying with a family member, and we need to bring that to the forefront because our youth need to be protected. The second piece is working with homeless veterans. We need to work with our homeless veterans and with our housing department to be able to bring forth some policies and some programming to help both of these needy populations. The veterans, some come with backgrounds. To be homeless though knows no boundaries, and it's going to be very important for us to bring that to awareness and to bring up some of the issues that some of our veterans are having in regards to being homeless. They served our country, they put their lives on the line. Many family members have grieved for their fellow veterans, and now that they're home, they're not able to find good, stable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Jarrett?
Very good question, this one. I know the tribe currently is working, I think it's the rental units. I think there's 6 rental units that are in place right now. I think that initiative needs to continue. There is at least one person that's moved out of housing into the rental unit, which makes the waiting list a little shorter at housing. But one of the things I wanted to bring up with housing issues is our people fought hard for restoration, and I believe in my heart that restoration was meant for us to get our lands back. Currently, we don't have our lands back. A lot of our lands still belong to Menominee County. As I drive around the lake, I notice many, many homes for sale on the lake. And I can't understand why we're not finding a way to move forward and purchase those homes that are on Legend Lake and offer them back to our tribal members as a rental unit or to buy them back. Part of restoration was getting this land back for our generations to follow. So I think that's really something we need to look forward to and look into doing is getting our land back, getting those homes, because our members, our people deserve those best places out on the lake. Currently, a lot of the best places are owned by non-members of our tribe, so I think that needs to be an initiative, and we can offer those homes back to our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Rachel, I have that same question to you. What are you going to do to solve the housing issue on the res?
I feel we're not doing enough for homelessness and the problem of a lot of our tribal members in our community are homeless. They're staying with families, they're doubling up in homes. Our youth are couch surfing. There are so many grant opportunities out there right now for homelessness, and that is not being taken advantage of. Studies have shown that one of the main components in self-sufficiency is having a stable place of residence, somewhere centered, somewhere that they can, call home. And once we establish that for that family or individual, they can start working on the rest of their path to self-sufficiency. I think that's very important that we explore all avenues for housing. Because when you're bouncing around from house to house and you're going shelter to shelter, you are surviving. And that, when you're surviving, you're in crisis mode and you're just living to survive that day, which may lead to, making bad choices. And here we go, we lead into, crime, abuse. It's a vicious cycle, and I think we owe it to our membership to explore those avenues and take advantage of some of those grant opportunities for youth, for veterans, for families. I think it's very important.
Thank you, Shannon. Gene?
Thank you. First of all, it's more than just a housing issue. If you want housing, most people need to have a job so they can afford to pay for housing, the rent, or whichever it is. So we need to address that major problem also. But as far as other housing, limited space, we have Middle Village. Middle Village was meant to be just that, a new village for growth. And there's a lot of room there. Single family dwelling, maybe 2-3-story dwelling for the single people, the one child, one parent people. Because there's a lot of that. I've heard the other candidates talk about people bouncing from house to house, relative to relative, or friend to friend, and sleeping on couches. Single person. Well, they need a job first so that they can get moving off the bouncing around. And if there's a place to rent a single dwelling, I think that would be one of the best things that we could provide for them. The other is a lot of older house. I have an older house, and it's on trust land. I can't borrow against it. Very little money to borrow against. Hard to get a loan to upkeep the house. So some tribes do this. They have a fund where they can help you rehab your house. There's other people out there, if you look around the open, that's where I live, there's a lot of houses that need rehabbing. They have big houses, there's a lot of room there. If they're gonna have extra people in their houses, they should have their houses fixed up. So there's a lot of things that we can do. Housing isn't the only issue.